First, good morning. What a beautiful day to be out in the woods and fields of this beautiful property. My name is George Peterson. I'm the Commissioner of Fish and Game, and one of my favorite departments is Fish and Wildlife, which does such great work in protecting land throughout the Commonwealth. Today we're here at this Crowning Shield Conservation Area. What a gorgeous day. We've got woods, forests, rivers in this whole area. But before I say any more, I'm going to introduce somebody that's very special to me, because I wouldn't be in this position without him. But also somebody that is known to all the sportsmen and women across the Commonwealth, the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Secretary of Environmental Affairs, Secretary Matt Beaton.
Commissioner. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And I got to start with, this is the coolest podium I've ever talked from. Love it. I actually have a table I made at home that's just like this. But and what a beautiful spot. I mean, Fish and Wildlife's outdoing itself the last couple of weeks with beautiful settings for great, exciting events. And this is one that is just truly exciting for a number of reasons. One, any excuse to come out to this part of the state. Little secret, hands down my favorite part of the state. Love it out here. Don't tell everybody else across the state that, but it really is just such a special part of the state. It's just so beautiful. Provides so much opportunity and so much recreational opportunity. I had the pleasure this morning of, well, first I woke up to watch the sunrise out of my tree stand back home, but then met the commissioner on the Deerfield River, where supposedly he caught a couple of fish, right?
Yeah, I got photographic evidence.
I think the photo's from 1984, but he got no. He had some good luck this morning, and it was just what a wonderful way to start a day, and then to be able to come out here to such a beautiful part of the state to celebrate such an amazing place. That really, in this effort that got us here today, is something that when we look at our priorities at EEA, at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, the Secretariat within that has DFG and DFW within it, this project is a poster child project of all of the things we are trying to accomplish in our land conservation efforts. It was first founded and started with a phenomenal partnership between our folks at DFG and DFW, but even equally as important, the folks at the Franklin Land Trust and Trout Unlimited. Very, very big thank you for all of your great efforts to make this project happen. Thank you. In the projects itself, obviously it has a large conservation piece to it, preserving, I believe, 96 acres of beautiful land in and of itself, but beautiful, perfect wildlife habitat, providing watershed protection for a number of fish species in the river valley below here, protecting all the native species that exist right here, right behind us. And additionally, this project also has sound management and stewardship associated with it. Two things that we are very focused on in the Baker-Polito administration. We have done a phenomenal job of conservation, and we want to continue to be a national leader in conservation. But those lands that we do have, making sure that we are caring for them and being good stewards for these lands to be able to maximize biodiversity and wildlife habitat, to provide not just the natural beauty and a healthy ecosystem, but recreational opportunities. And that is another thing that this partnership presents, is the preservation of the opportunity to not just observe the land, but to actively recreate in the land. And as a active sportsman and naturalist and just person who just loves to be outside, all of those things coming together truly make this a remarkable project, and one that we are very proud that Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito are very proud to be associated with. And again, it is all due to the great work of many that put that great effort and some money behind it to make sure that we are all here today to celebrate this. So thank you all very much for the opportunity to be here, and thank you all for your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. We cannot, in the executive office, cannot do this alone. And we have a couple of great elected officials out in this area that represent all of you very well and that are critical in the support of what we do on a day-in-day basis. We've invited Senator Ben Dowling, who wasn't able to make it, and also Representative Paul Mack. The representative couldn't make it, but on his behalf, we have Jesse Coley. Jesse?
Thank you so much. Rep. Paul Mark is very sad to be missing this event today. I definitely lucked out with this assignment to come on his behalf. So he's so grateful for these kinds of collaborative efforts that we know very well here in Franklin County and his 2nd Berkshire District. It's been quite a success, and this is really exciting to see more wildlife protected and more opportunities for recreation for the public. It's all good things. And I also echo what you said. This is my favorite part of the state for sure, and Rep. Paul Marks. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I introduce some of our other speakers, I need to introduce some of the people that make me look good. And the
Takes
first,
a lot.
easy, Secretary, easy. The first one, who works in and day out, working with all our land agents out in our 5 districts, as well as all the individuals that are looking to either donate property, sell property, protect property, is Christy Edwards, the head of our land program. Christy. And we wouldn't be able to do it with our field staff out in these areas as well. We've got Andrew Madden, our regional manager here. Andrew. And also Peter Milanese, who is the Western District. Peter. These are the people that work day in, day out so that we can be here today to announce such great purchases and protection across the Commonwealth. We have over 200,000 acres across the Commonwealth now. And as I've said in other land events, and then I hope the Secretary won't get too upset, before I leave this office, I would hope to have close to 400,000 acres under the care and protection of Fish and Wildlife. Because then every sportsman and woman who would like to recreate in these areas will always be able to do it. It'll be there for my kids, my grandkids, and their children. And that's sort of the goal that we continue to strive for in EEA and Fish and Wildlife and Fish and Game. The other critical piece to any purchase such as this is our partners, our non-government organizations. But they are critical for us to be able to protect beautiful pieces of land such as this. We've got the Franklin Land Trust, and we have individuals here from Trout Unlimited. So first, I'm going to go to Rich Hubbard, who is representing the Franklin Land Trust. Rich?
Thank you, George. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Welcome, Commissioner, to Western Mass and to Heath and to our Crowning Shield Conservation Area. I also want to welcome some folks that are here from the town. We have Brian DeVries, who's a select board member here in town. It's nice to be in a town where the select board understands the work we do and appreciates the work we do and understands its importance to the quality of life here in beautiful Heath. We also have some board members here today from the Franklin Land Trust. I want to make sure I point them out too. Tony Borton. Tony, raise your hand. Jan Carr up in the back here. Nina in the back. There you go. Thank you. Nina Kohler. And did I miss anybody? Oh, Barbara. Oh, you were hiding back there. Barbara Miller. So, and my staff too. I'd like to point out my staff. None of this would have happened without the incredible work that my staff does. And so we have Will Anderson, our chief land steward, scanning the field. Wendy Ferris, our director of community outreach. Melissa Patterson, who also works with Wendy on community outreach. Elaine Peteroy, our land conservation director, who puts a lot of work into putting these types of projects together, and works with the likes of Peter Malinesi on getting that done, getting those done. Emily Boss, who's our land specialist, land conservation specialist. Linda Alvord, who are a member director. MJ. Oh, MJ way up in the back, who's our stewardship person. So Sometimes answers to difficult puzzles are right under your nose and you don't know it. When I first met with the owner of this farm probably 5 years ago, Fred Crowningshield, at his daughter's home in Greenfield, his son had not just recently been killed on this farm in a farming accident. The likelihood that this was going to stay a dairy farm went with his death, but it was clear that Fred really, really wanted to do something to conserve this farm, which he loved and had been in the family for generations, and he really worked hard on. But it was a hard thing. I was stumped. I've done this work for a long time, but we just couldn't figure out how to get it done, because if you look at it, it's not your classic APR farm. The soils aren't the greatest here, and we all recognize that, so that wasn't going to happen. At the time, it wasn't really in the crosshairs in a focus area for fish and game, and so we were just sort of stumped. And so when it came up for sale, we entered in a purchase and sale agreement to see if we could take a chance to try to figure out some way to get it done. And one of my staff, Josh Morris, took a hike down to the west branch of the North River and dropped a line with a fly on it into the river and realized what we had here, the incredible resource that we had here. And all of a sudden lights went on and we started making phone calls, and the next thing we know, we were all of a sudden having conversations with Trout Unlimited. I'll let Gary and the rest of the gang from TU talk about that part of it. But it just goes to show that you just have to keep pushing these things sometimes. You have to keep working at it. And eventually, hopefully, you figure out a way to get it done. The other part of this, which is really important to us, now we own this beautiful property. But along with that comes the responsibility to make sure it's managed in a fashion that's not only going to make sure that the resource values here are secured, but are enhanced. And so the program, the Mass Wildlife Habitat Management Grant that we received, was huge for us. I mean, it's just an incredible program. Management funds can be hard to come by sometimes. So the idea that the state's helping us to continue to manage this beautiful farm for the resource values that were the reason we conserved it is a big, big plus. And we used the money initially to fight back the multi-floor rose that was threatening to take over the entire farm. And we hope to have get other work done here to manage for things like grouse and woodcock and as well as the trout. So anyway, it's a great project. We couldn't do it without our partners, and I guess I'm going to introduce now. George, you want to introduce?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay,
I
okay.
want to talk a little more
All right,
about Franklin Land Trust.
Okay, well, thanks for cutting out, folks. Appreciate it.
You know, since 2010, working with the Franklin Land Trust, Department of Fish and Game has worked on 6 major land projects. Close to 4,000 acres are protected. So we cannot thank them enough for all their work over the years, and we will continue to work to preserve jewels like this across the state. So thank you very much. The other piece to this is Trout Unlimited. We have several people here today. The first one to speak will be Gary Crago. He's from the Mass Rhode Island Council of Trout Unlimited. Gary?
Thank you, George. Thank you, Secretary Beaton. Well, good morning, everybody. This is my fourth time here, and every time I come here, I am just awestruck at the beauty. And on this fall day, it's simply remarkable. So, on behalf of Trout Unlimited, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's event. And I want to tell you a little bit about TU. We're not just fishermen. In fact, we're far more than fishermen. We are a cold water conservation organization, and our mission is to conserve, to protect, and restore North America's cold water fisheries and their watersheds. So what better example of that than the West Branch here? My role is both in the local council, Mass Rhode Island, but I'm also the chair of the working group at TU National in Washington that has a group called the Land Conservancy Working Group. And our task is to help TU nationwide look for opportunities to conserve land where there are fisheries, cold water resources like this. And I will tell you, it's one of the major initiatives at our national level. And I was just in Montana at the annual meeting, and this crowning shield achievement was one of the most talked about items. It was just a view of what we could do back here in the East to protect these resources. I want to tell you a little bit about my getting to know Franklin Land Trust and what a fabulous experience this has been. When they came to us and described this roughly 100-acre parcel with a mile of the West Branch running through it, that clearly piqued some interest because, first of all, we're very heavily engaged in land conservancy and we were looking for opportunities to do that. But then it was Josh Morris who said, hey, this is a wild brook trout stream. Now you have to understand, brook trout are our only native trout species in New England. All the other trout, rainbows, browns, those are imported fish. Those are fish that have come from elsewhere. That's our one native fish. And it's also an indicator species. When streams and rivers are in good health, the water is cold and clean, brook trout survive and thrive. When it isn't, they're the first species to be eradicated. So when Josh said this has a wild population of brook trout, that really raised the bar and made this just so utterly valuable for us. And we know the value of protecting these tributaries because these provide the refuge in the warm summer months when flows are low, temperatures are high. So this became a fabulous example of where we could help not only the collaboration with the state and the land trust, but to protect our most revered trout species here in New England. So, and then lastly, we really wanted to establish ongoing relationships with land trusts, and what better example than Franklin. So I must tell you from the start, the Franklin Land Trust has been simply a great collaborator. Will as the steward, and Rich, executive director, and all the other people that we've met and engaged with at Franklin Land Trust. It's been a fabulous experience, and you helped us through the early stages of learning how to go through protecting land, engaging us with the state, putting together an advisory committee. Just a wonderful organization. We couldn't be more delighted. And for those of you from the board, you should absolutely be delighted with your staff here at FLT. I can't think of a better group that I've worked with, and I mean that. And I also have to mention the great efforts on the part of the state of Massachusetts, Fish and Wildlife, Fish and Game. We work a lot with the state of Massachusetts, and again, the collaboration has been superb. Bruce, one of my colleagues from GBTU, worked on electroshocking in the eastern part of the state with your resources. Everything we've done with you has turned out to be just an absolute success, so thank you very, very much for your superb collaboration. I'd also like to tell you this started a whole new wave of land conservancy here in New England, but in particular we've been able to partner with another land trust and conserve a brook trout stream on the Cape. So this is the model, and we're using it over and over, and we hope to continue to use it with you, Rich, and your staff. And then in closing, I really believe the success of this project has again proven the power and the value of collaboration. When you take individual organizations, have them work together, just great things can take place. So please accept my personal thanks and that of TU for all of your efforts and contributions in making this fantastic event and this acquisition occur. Thank you so much.
I'd like to recognize the president of the Deerfield River Watershed chapter of the Trout Unlimited, Jim Garapi. Jim is here. And on their behalf, Kevin Parsons would like to say a few words. Kevin?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Kevin Parsons, and I'm the Vice President of the Deerfield River Watershed chapter of Trout Unlimited. And Jim has already been introduced. We have Chris Jackson. He's on our board of directors, co-chairman of the Conservation Commission. He's Conservation Committee. He was the one who really took the ball on behalf of our chapter and ran with it with Mass Rhode Island Council and the other chapters. Without Chris taking that on, I don't know what would have happened as far as our involvement, but he recognized it right away, brought it to our board. And one of the great things about this, so first, thanks, Chris, and a round of applause for Chris. He did a great. And just to plug him a little bit, he is an accomplished fly fishing guide on the Deerfield River. Flyfishthedeerfield.com. If you want to learn how to fly fish, or if you are an accomplished fly fisherman, he's the guy to go to. A great friend, an incredible guide, and just a great person to spend a day with. Our chapter started about 5 years ago, just before Hurricane Irene happened, and that certainly was the start of our chapter. The former chapter had gone by the wayside, and Jeremy McGeorge contacted me and said, hey, why don't we try to get a chapter going here for the Deerfield River? And so we started the effort, and then Hurricane Irene happened, and there was a great groundswell of support of TU members that really wanted to get involved, and so it took on a life of its own. And we've got an incredible board, we have incredible membership, and this is just another opportunity that came upon us, and instead of worrying about how we were going to do it, we were just going to get it done. And so with the help of Gary, on behalf of the Mass Rhode Island Council and the Greater Boston chapter, first we came to our chapter, said this is what we want to do. We want to raise some money and get this going. And with the help of the Mass Rhode Island Council and every single chapter in Mass and Rhode Island ponied up money, and within 45 days, I think it was, we raised $45,000 in 45 days. And so we made this happen because Rich was saying we've got a deadline. And I think the deadline was 30 days, but we were able to get it in 45 days. And I was able to contact the attorney and said, just give us a little more time. And so it just worked out. And it worked out because we had this great partnership. We had everybody that was just jumping on it, was excited about it. And we were going to make it happen. And it wasn't that whether or not we were going to make it happen, it was going to happen. And so we were committed to that. Our chapter has 160 members. Nationwide, TU has 140,000 members. And as Bruce said, it's like we care about cold water fisheries. And for us, our service area is the Deerfield River and the entire watershed, which is these headwaters. And obviously, this is a very important headwater for the Deerfield River. What happens here, what happens up on top of that mountain, impacts waterways all the way down to Long Island Sound. And so we really care about these headwaters a lot. And so we're very excited to be working with the Land Trust in this partnership and what the opportunities are going to be for our organization and for this area to make this a better place for the fish. Because if we take care of the fish, then the fishing is going to take care of itself. And we don't have to do anything more about it. And we're a conservation organization. We're not a fishing club. So we really care about conserving and preserving these type of properties and removing obstacles like dams and culverts and what have you to make it better for the fishery, and which is going to, again, benefit everything downstream. Now, this also has economic benefits as well to this area because we're transitioning. It was industrial, then it went to farming, and now most of these farms are going away. And so we're kind of like transitioning as like what's going to be the new economic opportunity, and we're recognizing that in this area, ecotourism is big. Now, most of you probably don't know, but we have 10 professional guides making a living guiding people on the Deerfield River and in the rivers around here. And the people that come to fly fish primarily spend a lot of money. And they're spending $400 or $500 for a guide. They're staying in hotels and motels around here. They're eating at our restaurants. They're staying at B&Bs, Airbnbs. So it's not a huge economic impact, but it can be significantly better. And our chapter recognizes that the Deerfield River it already is a blue ribbon stream, but can be so much better. And we are looking forward to working with the Land Trust and working with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and making the Deerfield River a go-to place like the West Branch of the Delaware River, like the Henry's Fork of the Snake River out in Idaho, and the Farmington River, to making this area a place that people who already know about it, but more people are going to come here to want to enjoy this incredible resource and spend money here and make a significant economic benefit to all of us. As I was driving up today, I was recalling I grew up in Coleraine, and my mom and dad used to take in hunters. In this area, during hunting season, the first day of hunting season in grammar school was usually like a pseudo day off because everybody went hunting, right? And people would flood from the eastern part of the state and come up here and go hunting. And these roads would be, and Mike Vito was one of them, and these roads would just be crowded with people. And up behind my mom's house, we would have literally 30 to 40 people up on the hill hunting. And those people spent money here. And now we don't see that. And I see this as far as if we can make the Deerfield in this area even better than what it is, it can be a significant economic impact for our area. And all these little pieces come together and make something really special even more special. And so that the people around here can actually afford to live here, and they can make a few bucks in the process. So we are really excited about this partnership. It just is. I've dealt with the land trust on a number of deals for clients of mine, and highly regarded throughout the country now. And I know that, as Gary said, TU is really excited about this on a national level. And just in closing, I was reading the TU Trout magazine, and the letter that the president, Chris Wood, he was talking about climate change and the TU approach. And he was talking about a conversation that he was having with a friend of his who was a doubter about climate change. And rather than getting into the political aspects of that, he was talking about, well, that really didn't matter. And so I'm just going to read you a couple of paragraphs from this letter because it ties into this project, I believe. He says, what we are experts at, talking about TU, what we are expert in are four basic things. We protect the highest quality fish habitat that is often found in the high elevation areas where rivers and clean water begin. We work to reconnect those areas to lower elevation habitats by removing dams, fixing culverts, and changing water laws. We work to restore areas where we see the highest return. Finally, we invest in kids and volunteers because without them, we cannot sustain our work over time. He then goes on, that work to protect, reconnect, and restore rivers not only makes fishing better, but it helps people too. When we protect high elevation roadless and wilderness areas, we reduce downstream drinking water filtration costs. When we reconnect rivers to floodplains, we allow floodplains to dissipate and diminish the effects of flooding on downstream community. When we engage in watershed restoration, we provide high-paying family jobs. So it was like right on point. After I wrote my speech, I said, wow, that's right on point, because it's the economic benefit too that we recognize as being very important as well. And so we look forward to working with the Land Trust, with the Mass Rhode Island Council, and Gary and your chapter and the other chapters as well, and also with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in making this even a better situation for everybody, but also for our residents that live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. There's one other group that I forgot to mention, and that's the sportsmen and women of this great Commonwealth. Through their purchases of license, hunting, fishing, trapping licenses, they spend $5 every year for every license, which creates about $1.5 million a year, $1.5 million that we can use for land preservation. That money went to be a part of the partnership for this piece of property. So without those sportsmen and women who are out there in the field every day, and the first true conservationists out there, we wouldn't be here today. So I want a round of applause for all of them as well. But as I started earlier, we could not do it without a willing landowner. We could not do it without other organizations such as the Franklin Land Trust and Trout Unlimited. And we are looking forward to more and more events like this in the future. Thank you all.